Music to my ears. So that's G? What's this one then? This is a B? Are you making this stuff up? Man, this guitar stuff is hard work. It's funny. The world of music has different sides to it. On one hand, you have the passion that goes into performing and creating, but on the other, you have the commitment to practice and follow the sheet music as closely as possible. Kimsometimes, you can get so wrapped up in one that you lose sight of the other. That's exactly what Shigatsu wa Kimi no Uso is about. The name Shigatsu wa Kimi no Uso means Your Lie in April. It was originally a manga by Naoshi Arakawa, which began in 2011 and is now an anime by A1 Pictures, which is the studio behind many awesome shows like Sword Art Online and Fairy Tail. Well, let's count off and get started, shall we? We begin with the cliché shot of cherry blossoms establishing that it's April, just like the title suggests, and then we get a glimpse of a girl eating on her commute to school, which is kind of rude in Japan. She spots a black cat and quickly gives chase, which sums up her character rather nicely. She gives a quick nya, and the opening sequence starts. The next scene opens in a crowded concert hall with a young boy on stage emotionlessly playing a very complicated piece on his piano. Suddenly, the scene is cut short, and we see the same boy years later in middle school, listening to music on his cell phone in front of a piano, but he doesn't play it. He uses it for reference as he transcribes the music. He's interrupted when a baseball, hit by his childhood friend, crashes through the window and knocks him out. She opens the door to retrieve it and finds our hero laying face down in a pool of his own blood. She freaks out, but instead of getting her precious friend to a hospital, she grabs the ball and tries to leave like nothing happened, but he suddenly comes to, and we find out his name is Kosei, and that her name is Tsubaki. He suddenly realizes the window was broken again, and that all he can see is red, but she brushes it off, saying the amount of windows she's broken is proof that she's a good batter. Wow, some friend you got there, Kosei. He grumbles about having to apologize for the window again, and tries to pick up a shard of glass, but Tsubaki stops him, obviously protecting his piano-playing hand. Kosei basically says, "So what?" And in enters Watari, his other childhood friend, teasing them about being lovers. Later that day, we see the three of them getting ready to go home. Tsubaki is complaining about them getting yelled at for the window. "Kosei too? That's not fair, he didn't even do anything!" They walk home chatting, and we find out Kosei and Tsubaki act more like brother and sister than lovers. Suddenly, Watari gets a text from one of the many girls he flirts with, and immediately abandons the other two. "Kosei, you really need to get some better friends, man." Now alone with Kosei, Tsubaki then asks him if he has anyone he likes, saying that when you're in love, everything looks colorful. Kosei replies that no one would fall in love with him. Typical clueless protagonist. She scolds him for being too depressing. This cheers him up a bit. Through the rest of the walk home, we find out Kosei lives with his dad, but his dad's always away on business. Anime uses that device a little too much. I know it creates a lot of opportunities for the main character, but it's kind of lazy writing. Inside Kosei's house, there are piles of awards he won for playing piano. He quietly talks to a photo of his mom, establishing that she passed away. The next day, Tsubaki ambushes him in the classroom to ask for a favor. A friend of hers is going on a date with Watari, but is too nervous, so she volunteered herself and Kosei to double for them. Since she's a classical musician like Kosei, he might ease the tension. Have you met the guy? He's nothing but tense. He then reveals that he hasn't played the piano for 2 years. Flashback time! It turns out he started playing the piano because it was his mother's dream to be a famous concert pianist, but she fell ill and wasn't able to achieve it. So she forced him to do it instead. Sometimes she'd even hit him. He stuck with it because he thought making her happy would also make her well again. When she died, he lost his reason to play. Just became mechanical. He sleeps in gloves? That's a little weird. The next day, Kosei arrives at the meeting spot first. He finds a pair of women's shoes and stockings hanging from a tree. Wait, that's a little weird. Suddenly, he hears music coming from a nearby park. He follows it and finds the girl we saw earlier, playing music with a bunch of neighborhood kids. Apparently, they're trying to attract pigeons. He's moved by the sight, and takes a picture with his cell phone right when a gust of wind happens, leading to hilarious misunderstandings. Finally, the other two show up and introduce the girl as Miyazono Kaori. When meeting Watari, she becomes cute and funny, but threatens to end Kosei's life if he tells the other two about what just happened. Kaori and Watari chat for a bit while Tsubaki teases Kosei about losing Kaori to Watari. Kaori realizes how late it is and says she has to hurry to Towa Hall because she has to perform soon. She grabs her violin case and makes the dramatic declaration that she's a violinist. Kosei says he'll pass, but Kaori grabs his hand and forces him to come. We get a close-up of his eyes doing that quivering that anime does so well, and he agrees to go. Not a bad show so far. I'm 5 episodes in at this point, and I'm hooked. That beginning shot of Kaori with the cat was a little mundane, but looking back, it's a really good way to sum up her approach to life. Alright, time for the ratings. Let's start with visuals. The colors are very bright and saturated, but they're also well blended, so the show looks really nice and polished. Also, when Kosei is alone and depressed, the colors become more neutral, adding to the metaphor of enjoying a colorful youth. The faces are very expressive, and the drawing style has very detailed eyes which have a nice unnerving effect when Kaori stares at Kosei. The noses are pretty realistic, and overall, the show looks very pretty and carefully rendered. They even got the stuffy atmosphere of concert halls just right. I give the visuals a 9 out of 10. As for characters, the main guy Kosei is very much in the Shinji Ikari camp, where he faces stress and pressure and just shuts down. Piano used to be his purpose, but he didn't choose it for himself. He only did what he was told, but now that his mom is gone, he lost that purpose, and doesn't know what to do with himself. He's a very sad character, but I found myself really rooting for him. Kaori, the main love interest, is the opposite of Kosei. She plays violin because she loves it. Her definition of success isn't winning competitions or achieving perfection. She just wants to move the people in the audience. Like I said before, they represent the two aspects of music, creativity, and precision. His friends Watari and Tsubaki are both into sports. They may tease Kosei a lot, but they do care about him. Watari's interesting because usually the male friend is goofy and jealous of the main guy for attracting all the chicks, but Watari is cool, supportive, and lives his own life. He's still kind of a womanizer though. Tsubaki is the stereotypical childhood friend, who obviously likes Kosei. She's torn between wanting him to be happy and wanting to have him to herself. Sadly, childhood friends don't usually win. They say and do a lot of cliche things, but the problems they face and the way they cope is pretty realistic and interesting. So I've got to give the characters 8.5 out of 10. Okay, for plot, the premise isn't very unique. It's pretty much insert drama plot 2 and add a musical theme. It feels very similar to sports dramas like Suzuka, where the main character is going through life aimlessly, but meets a girl that doesn't really like him, so he tries to get good at whatever activity she's committed to in order to be with her, and through that, discovers he either enjoys it or is naturally talented at it. The difference is that Kosei is already good at piano. He's just afraid to play again, but ends up facing it again to reach her level. Speaking as a creative person, hey, I am a creative person. I paint. Sometimes. Anyway, speaking as a creative person, if you suddenly have to give up your art form, you no longer have a way to express yourself, and the world feels kind of numb to you, so seeing a character have to go through that is really interesting. Like I said, they use the absent parent thing to increase Kosei's isolation and create opportunities for him, but they don't really put any effort into it. They just say his dad is working. That aside, the pacing of the show is pretty good. You have a bunch of cliffhangers, but that's how dramas are. The comedy and drama is really well balanced. There's never too much of either, and they tend to level each other out. I'd give the plot a 6 out of 10. Yeah, I give the show a thumbs up. I can tell for the most part, the creators put a lot of thought into it, and I want to see Kosei and Kaori succeed. So of course, I plan to keep watching. Alright, I'm gonna get back to practicing now, but let me know what you thought of the anime, and what show I should review next. And as always, stay golden. Vize signing out.